Hello, sir. Yeah. We are waiting, sir. Okay, I'm on now. Okay. Sorry for the delay. I was trying to set things up, so I don't know if my screen is very clear. I've been battling with the clarity of my screen. I don't know if you guys can see the screen very well. Just let me know if the screen is not very bright. I'm still trying to make it brighter. Okay, so you are welcome to Veritech Solution. Today we are going to look at introductory aspect of Java programming. And today we are not going to look at how to download and install Java today. Maybe we'll be doing that on a separate video. But today we are going to look at the data types and variables. Then we are as well going to look at the operators in Java, then expressions and statements. Then we'll stop at basic inputs and outputs in Java. Okay. Please, if anything is not clear, maybe the screen or my voice, please you can let me know on the comment section. Just go to the comment section and let me know if my voice is clear and the video, if you are seeing my screen very clearly. From my side here, it is not too clear, but I don't know. Yeah, someone is saying he can't see the screen clear. That has been the problem. Your voice is clear. Okay, I know the voice should be clear, but please, the screen is blurry. That is what I have been battling with. Been battling with the screen. The other of my system that has a clearer resolution has issues. So I don't know. I'm just trying to manage this one. Okay, someone is saying everything is very clear. Okay, I can't see anything. Uh-oh. Uh, so what do we do then? Do we manage it this way or something? I don't know. What do we do? Because the essence of this video is for you to be able to see my screen and see what I am doing, so that when we'll be discussing the data types, we'll use the IDE to test them and see how they work. Okay, someone said we can manage. Let's manage anyways. So now we are going to look at data types and variables. Okay. Now in every programming language, all the programming languages, they have what we call data types. And this data type is just a collection of values, how they are represented in the computer memory, and a set of operations that can be performed on them. That is what we mean by what? Data types. We have a collection of values, then their representation in the memory. How do we represent those values in the memory? Then coupled with a set of operations that can be performed on those values. Okay, so whenever you hear of data types, one thing that will come to your mind is the values. We have values, and you know, when we have a value, we have to store it somewhere, and where we store them is right in the computer memory. So when we store them in the computer memory, we will as well know the type or the kind of operations that can be performed on those values. Example, if we have values like 2 and 3, 2 and 3 are values. What are the types of operations that can be performed on 2 and 3? We can multiply them, we can add them together, we can divide, we can subtract. So that is what the operation. And how do we represent them in the computer memory? How do we store them in the computer memory? That is data types. Now we are talking about data types and variables. When you have values, you must have variables, and you use those variables to do what? To hold the data, to hold the values which you are going to manipulate, okay, in the course of the execution of your computer program. Like I said, every programming language have what? Data types. Like C, C++ has data types. C Sharp has its own data types. Java has its own data types. Okay, and a lot of other programming languages. Okay, now when we look at these data types, we have the primitive and the non-primitive data types. So the primitive data types are those ones that are defined by the programming language. Okay, they are the types of data that are defined by the language. Now, what do we mean by that? They come with the programming language. They are the basic, just like in physics, where you have the basic, the fundamental SI unit, then you have the derived SI unit. So this one is basic. The primitive data types, they are the basic data types. They come with the programming languages. Then when we talk of the derived data types, we are now talking about the non-primitive data types. Okay. Now, what are those data types? Those primitive data types in Java? We have the Boolean, we have the char, we have the byte, we have the short, we have the int, we have the long, we have the float. These are the primitive data types. We are going to experiment on all these data types in this particular environment. Okay, that is our Eclipse. This Eclipse is a Java development, integrated development environment. That is where we edit all our source codes, and it gives us the features of running all our programs, the Java programs. But remember, you cannot use this IDE to run Java programs if you don't have the Java development kit installed on your computer. That means you must have to download the JDK, the Java development kit, install it on your computer. That is where the Java compiler is before you can now use this IDE to edit your source code or to prepare your source code. Like I said, I'm going to do a separate class where we will learn how to download this JDK. It's very easy. Just go to Google and type JDK. Then you will see it. The first few results, you will see the JDK. Okay, or you can just go straight to oracle.com, Oracle website, and download the JDK from there. So once you download this, install it on your computer. That is now when you say that you have Java compiler running on your system. Then that is now when you can use any of these IDEs, especially this one, that is the Eclipse. Okay. So we are going to experiment all these data types here. We are going to use them to write one or two Java programs and run them on these integrated development environments. Okay, so we said we have the non-primitive data types, and those non-primitive data types are what we call the derived data types. They are derived from the primitive data types. Remember, you can call the primitive data types the primary data types. That is the primitive data types. Then the non-primitive data types, we can call it the derived data types. The primitive data types, we can as well refer to it as the base data type. Okay? While the non-primitive data types are the derived data types. They are derived from the primitive or the primary data types. So, in other words, we will now say that non-primitive data types are not defined by the programming language, okay? But they are created by programmers. You can create them yourself based on what? Based on the primitive data types. And examples of the non-primitive data types are the array, we have the string, we have the stack, we have the queue. Okay, all those are what are non-primitive data types. Okay, before we go to the environment where we'll type our code or experiment on the code, let us look at variables. Now, variable is just a name of reserved area location in the memory, just a location in the computer memory that is reserved where you will use to store any of your variables, be it primitive variables or the values that are stored in the non-primitive, that are of non-primitive types. Okay, that is a variable. So the variable, most times we see it as a label. You go to a space or a location on the computer memory and you mark it and label it. For instance, just like some of the things we see in the chemistry lab, you have a beaker labeled H2O. Okay, the label H2O, the beaker itself is the memory, and the water, the actual H2O inside is now the values or the data inside. Then what type of data is it? Is it liquid or solid? So you see, so that is synonymous to what we are discussing here. We have our beaker, we have a label on the beaker, we have water inside the beaker, and that water is of a type either gas, liquid, or solid. Okay, that is the data type. If we are to act as if we are in the chemistry lab. Okay, so we have the label, just that is the variable. Okay, is a location. If you are tracing, if you want to fetch that water, if you want to get the content of that beaker, you look at what? You look at the label. Okay, now you always, when you label, you always put the right type of value inside that your variable. That is why you have the data types. When you create a variable and the variable will contain a primitive data type like int, you cannot put character inside that place. Just like when you have a beaker and you label that beaker H2O, if you put kerosene inside, you are risking people around because somebody will look at it and see that this thing is water. Of course, we know H2 is water, not knowing that it is what is kerosene. Okay, very, very disastrous. Now, variables, how do we declare variables? Because when we have these variables, we have the data types. And you remember the essence of our programs, if you remember your stored program machine in computer architecture, where we say that in stored program machine, the computer stores both programs, that is the program and the data it manipulates in the computer memory. Okay. Now, in this stored program, the essence of values, the essence of program is to solve problem. We use it to solve problem. And for us to solve problem, we must have what? Data. Okay. So this data we use to solve that problem, we are going to store them somewhere. For instance, if you go online, you want to log into your email server, your mail box, you want to check your mail, it will request for your email ID, right? When you get in, type in your mail ID, it will request for your password. Then you type in your password. Those two credentials, the email ID and the password that you entered, they are held by something. And what is holding them? What is actually holding them is what we call what? A variable. It is a variable that you will assign that email address to. Then your password, you assign it also to another variable. And the types, the data types of the email and the password you entered is string. Okay? Let us assume again that you are entering three credentials. You enter your serial number. Maybe in a class we have taken attendance and we have serial number. Everybody has a unique serial number. You enter your serial number first. You enter your email address. Then you now enter your password. These are three credentials, three values we are going to enter. So the first one, we will declare a variable that will hold the serial number. And that serial number has to be what? An integer. Then we'll declare what again? A string that will hold the email address. Then we'll declare another string that will hold the password. You see, the other variable is holding numbers, that is int, okay, or what, or long. Then the other two are holding what? String. That is, string is a sequence of characters form a string, just like somebody's name or somebody's hostel or lodge address, or somebody's registration number. You know, our registration number is alphanumeric, so it's what? A string. Okay, so that is what variable does. Okay, so now we now know our data types, the primitive and the non-primitive data types. We are going to concentrate majorly on the primitive data types. Okay, so we now know our variables. How do we form variables? That should be another thing. We must know how to form variables before we can form variables. In fact, if you ask me now to form a variable, okay, I will give you 1,000,000 and plus variable names. Okay, I will give you 1,000,000 plus variable names. If I say A is a variable. All the alphabets starting from A to Z, they are all what? Variables. Okay? If I have A1, A11, A12, A13, A2, A3, they are all what? Variables. Okay? That means that we have rules for forming variables. Now, but before we go to those rules, let us look at these three variables in Java. Three variables. We have the local variable, we have the instance variable, and we have the static variable. Now, when we talk about the local variable, when you have a method in Java, we will see all these when we get to practical. Let us just do this theory first and try as much as possible to grab one or two during this theory so that when we get to the practical aspects, you will be able to clear your confusions if at all there is any. Okay. Now, when we talk of local variables, there is what we call method. A method is just a set of code that performs a particular function, and they usually return values. Not all the times, anyway. Some of them don't return values. Like if we have a void method, a void method does not return any value. Okay, so just a set of code, just a set of code that performs a particular function is what is a method. Like if we are to write a program that will collect students' results, okay, add up and find the average. I can write a method called average. The work of the method called average is to pick the sum of the values and divide it by the number of occurrences and return what? And return a value. That is the average. Okay. Now, if I declare a variable inside that method, it is a local variable. Okay. If I have a constructor, okay, of a class and I declare a variable there, it is what? Local. Even if I declare a parameter, just what we call an argument inside a method, when you have a method, you have the arguments. Not all of them have arguments. They are all local variables. They are local because you cannot access them outside that block, outside that method. When you move out of that method, uh, you cannot access them. Okay. Then we have blocks of statement. Like if I start a brace and close the brace, that is a block. Like when I'm using the loop, like the for loop statement, I can do the for loop statement, start with a brace, close with a brace. Okay. That is what? A block. So if I declare a variable inside, that is what? A local variable. Okay. Now let us look at this. Remember, I said we know that Java is an object-oriented programming language, and almost all object-oriented programming languages starts with what? With a class. Okay, you have a class, then the uh, you have the objects of the class. When you have a class, you can create an object of that class. Okay, so it starts with a class and ends what? In a class. So we are going to look at this an example of local variables. In fact, by the time we are looking at this, we will take that opportunity to show how to declare a variable. Okay, we'll see how we declare variable in Java. Okay, so we are going to write a sample code that will display score grade later if the score is greater than or equals to 70. Okay, now we are here now. This is our IDE, our integrated development environment. We want to start our Java code. Okay, now this is the welcome page. In this welcome page, I can close it if I want. Okay, just close it. It's gone. Now I will go to file. This is my file. Okay, this is the file menu. Okay, so this is the file menu. I will go to new. Okay, under new, you will now see Java project. Okay, so we have Java projects. What we actually, I want to write a full Java, just create a project. So let me call this project sample. That is the project name. Okay. You see, this is the new Java project dialog box. So create a Java project. I have a project name called what? Sample. Then I will leave this, use default location. That is where it will store the project for me. That is the location. If you want to change the location, you can uncheck this and actually browse and get a folder that you have already created. But I'm going to use it, leave it at default. Okay, I'm going to leave it at this. Then you leave this. This is the JRE. Use an execution environment. This JRE is the Java runtime environment that executes your program. Okay, so we are going to leave this. Then the project layout, we are going to leave this. Create separate folders for source and the class file. We'll leave this way. We don't want to change anything here. So even here, we are not going to change. The only thing we have changed here is what? Is just the project name that I've entered. Then I click on the next. Okay. Now, all these ones here, you don't have to do anything here. This is the source file. Okay. We have the project. This is the module part and the class part, the libraries. So you don't need to touch any of these. Just click on finish. Okay. So once I click on finish, if you look at this area, you will see that it has created a project for me. But that is not all. What it has created is just the source file folder and the JRE, the Java Runtime Environment folder. So you can see a lot of folders. They are all the packages. Okay, you can see all the packages are here. We have Java.SQL, Java.util. I'm looking for Java.util. I think I've said something like that once. So they are all here. Can't find util. Okay, but these are all the packages. Let me expand this. These are all the packages that you need. Okay, while you can call any of them. Okay, you can import any of these packages while writing your program. So you don't need to tamper with it. Just leave it that way. Okay, we leave it that way. Then inside this our source file, I will have to right click on the source file. Okay, right click on the source file, then you will go to new. I'm not creating Java project again. If I create Java project again, I'm creating another project folder inside the project folder that I already have. Okay, so instead of creating Java project again, I will create what? A package. Okay, I will create a package. You know, when I opened this JRE here, when I expanded this JRE, I showed you all the packages that are there. So if I create my own package, it will look not exactly like their own package, but just the name. If I am writing another program and I want to import or I want to make use of some classes or some methods inside this my project, then I will need to import the package I've created. Okay, so I will type the package name. Okay, let me call it sample.com. Okay, that is the package name. That's the only thing I've changed. Then finish. Now, if you look at it, you see I have sample.com. Okay, that is my own package. Then these are the packages: java.base, java.compiler, Java. All these ones came with uh, they came with the Java environment. Okay, they came with Java with the Java. So now, since I already have this, since I already have this, okay, Now, since I already have this, my package, I will now right click on the package and go to new. Now I want to create what? A class. Okay? I want to create a class because all the codes we are going to write, they are going to be inside a class. Okay, all our methods and all the field members, if we have like static variables, okay, or we have instance, we have public variables that, which we can access from within another class. We are going to create a class where all of those things, including the methods, are going to reside. So I will click on the class. Now I will give my class a name. Let me still call my class sample. Okay, you see, I have the class name as sample. I did not touch the folder. I did not touch what? The package name. The only thing I changed is what? Is the class name. Now, modifiers. What modifier will I use? That is what? Public. I will use public. It's a public class. If it is a public class, what it means is that I can access the class anywhere within the outside the class. Okay, I can access it. That is what a public class. This is part of what we call access modifier. Okay, these are what we call access modifiers. We are going to talk about all of these, but for now, let us use what? Public. Where our class is public, we can access our class from outside this our package. Okay, let us assume that I've written two packages, and one package I have a public class, the other package I don't have a public class. What it means is that I can access that public value variable or public object from one class. Okay, I can access it in another class. So I've changed this. Then the next thing I'm going to do is down here, this which method stubs would you like to create? So I would like to create this, not inherited abstract method. I've unchecked this. So I'm going to create this. Remember this one was checked, so I unchecked. So I'm creating what? Public static void main. You are conversant with this, okay? You are very, very conversant with, at least this is the main method. This is the main method. That is the entry point of every Java program. So now I am done. I am not going to change any other thing here. Let us revise this. Here, name, I changed the name of the class to sample. Then I selected public if it is not selected, but it's usually selected by default. Then I checked what? The public static void uh, main. Okay. All right. So the next thing I click on what? Finish. Good. And that is it. Now, if you look at what is generated now, you will see we have what? We have the package. This is the package. Okay. We have the package. We have the class. This is the class. The class starts from these curly braces and ends here. Then we have the main method. Okay. So the program we are going to write it inside this main method. Okay, and you remember we said that the sample program we are going to write to demonstrate both how to both how to declare variables and how we access those variables, everything about variables and the data types. That is what we have here. So I have a comment here. This is a single line comment. Okay, a single line comment. What it means is that the compiler will not execute this line. Once it gets to this line, it will jump. So I have it, I broke it into two. But this is what we call a single line comment. Okay, this is a single line comment. If I want a multi-line comment, I will start my comment with this and a star. Okay, so you see, this is a multi-line comment. What I have done now is a multi-line comment. And this first one is this first two here is a single line comment. So single line comment, you use what? A double slash, okay, for each line. You have a double slash for each line. But if it is a multi-line comment, you have something like this, okay? So if I have this as my multi-line comment, I can type, okay, the sample code, okay, below